Now that that's configured, we'll get into the meat and potatoes of the setting up the two target VMs we're going to work with. We want to work with the CSR 1000V and the ESXi V9K. These two appliances work really well in the ESX environment. I've had a lot of fun labbing with them, getting things going. So we're going to get those set up. So to do that, what you're going to need to do is first we need to upload the images to the data store. Now, someone out there who knows VMware and stuff, they go, oh wait, can't you just directly import the OVA? Yes, you can if you're running the vSphere client or the vSphere server. However, if you're using a web interface, one thing I've already ran into a wall about on this thing is that the web interface will fail to import the OVA and image in the hard disk correctly because of compression that's used on it. So you'll get a little error down here under recent tasks saying that it failed to import the device. So we actually will be importing ISO and to the data store and building it manually, which is kind of good because you can have more control over the settings that are being implemented right off the bat, and you will have a more in-depth knowledge of what you need to have set up for these to work. So what we'll do is go to the data store. So click storage. No, you don't need to create a new data store. I'm being goofy. Then you'll just upload your images. So I actually have mine set under, let's see, should be shared. No. So I actually have mine set under my public folder. And we'll actually just move that over here so because we're going to be using that a lot more. And we're going to upload, let's see, we have a lot of things we want to grab. So we're going to start with uploading the CSR 1000V to the data store. And actually, we're going to create a couple of directories under here. So images, create directory. Under images directory, we want to create one for appliances. We're going to create one for servers. We're going to create one for like basic end hosts. So for like computers host, stuff like that. And we're actually going to move this. And so you actually have to right click it and go move, go to images, appliances, throw it there because this is a network appliance. And now we're also going to upload this full ESXi 9K. It's going to be good for us to have. Let's go to our public, see what else we want in here. Under our servers, that's a Windows server we have in there. So I'm gonna just throw it in there since we're already here. What else do we need? What else do we have in here? Blah 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 blah. Not really worried about the ASA right now. I haven't extracted the route reflector one. I don't know if we really need that one. Yeah, we'll just go with those two for now. Okay, so let's see which ones are actually done. So the CSR should be done. So we're going to go ahead and start creating a VM on that one while we're waiting. So we are going to create a new virtual machine. We'll call this the CSR 1000V. Compatibility. This should be fine running on the newest version of virtual machine. For the ESXi, you will want to use an older version. I believe it's ESX 5.5, but we'll figure that out when we get there. The guest OS is going to be Linux, and it's going to be other Linux 2.6 64-bit. And by the way, if you want to know why I know these settings, what you'll want to do is look at the official Cisco documentation for this. So CSR 1000V site.com and configuration guides, yeah, right here. So if you do this, click on installation for ESXi environments, it will give you a detailed step-by-step, and we'll just jump down here. So watch out, because it'll do summary steps, but then you actually need to scroll down further and go to detailed steps. So it'll tell you how to install it using the ISO. So these little notes are important. So you need to be running newer version, such and such, such and such. So I just know most of this stuff like off of memory because I've built several of them. I've done it a lot. So now hopefully I don't screw myself over and like just botch this first try. But here we go. Customize settings. So what we want to do is do 3072 megabytes, or we can do gigs and just type 3 if you want to be, straightforward. One CPU, one socket is good for the CSR 1000V. You don't need a ton of CPU horsepower. If you're just running supported hardware on a proper machine, like this isn't even, the device I'm using is not even an actual server. It's just has server grade hardware, so it'll work. But as long as you're using proper hardware, you won't run into any issues running it on one CPU with one core. 3 gigs of RAM is fine. It'll sell you can use 4. I've tested it on 3 successfully. Hard disk 8 gigs is fine. You can leave the SCSI controller as is, USB controller as is. For our network adapters, so this is where we're going to do some interesting things. We're actually going to just add about 8 network adapters. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so you should have 8 total network adapters. Don't bother changing the network until you hit save, because sometimes it'll like change the order of them, and I don't know why it does that. Might just be a bug for what I'm dealing with, but it's just no need to mess with it right now. So for the CD DVD drive, we're going to choose data store ISO file, because what it's going to do is emulate this being in the data store. Emulate this being in the disk drive if it would have a disk drive. We'll just go to appliances, click our CSR 1000V, select the virtual device node. SATA 00 is fine. And the video card settings should be fine as well. So we'll click next. Provisioning type new, so you can just review everything, make sure you didn't fat finger any stuff. These network adapters should be fine. The E1000s should work if memory serves correctly. And we can just double check here if we want to. 5, 6. Yeah, I don't remember where it says it. Oh, supported VNix, VMXnet 3. Well, let's edit that. No need to cause ourselves unnecessary pain if it can be avoided. I'm pretty sure it worked anyway, though. I'm pretty sure I've spun up a bunch of these without having to worry about that. But like I said, we'll always do it the safe way if we haven't tested it other ways. Now, one thing, you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, you're going to do this for 20 routers, because everyone knows, or the people who have looked at the INE materials know that the full topology is 20 routers. I am not going to re-click and redo all of this 20 times. I I'm going to duplicate it, and you can duplicate it even without vSphere. You can just export this base one, re-import it, and with a minimal amount of reconfiguration, you'll be fine. And that's how I'm going to handle that problem. I'm not going to make you sit through it though. I'm just going to show you how to get one up and running, make sure it's up and running, make sure it can connect to our external networks, and we're going to be good to go. All right, so that should be good. Save that. Oh, and now we will actually go ahead and move that last adapter to our management network. I hate it when it does that stupid crap. Actually, what we'll do is just we'll open the console for it. Oh my gosh. So yeah, stay on page. Screw you, I'm not reloading. I'll actually just go ahead and hit. No, I have it downloaded. I actually want to do launch remote console. Yes, because I have that software installed. So you can download the VMware remote console. I already have it installed. And it's gravy. So we'll just verify that this boots, test our configuration, and we should be good to go. And as far as a base configuration, I already have a base config set up here, and this is what we're going to be using. To get the device set up and running. Oh, by the way, if this router crashes on you the first time you load it, no worries, just shut it down and boot it back up and it'll work. Sometimes it has the correct stuff in its flash. But yeah, so now you have a working CSR 1000V router. Let's see if we can get this thing configured. I wonder if, I can't remember if this console will allow you to paste from clipboard or not. Probably not. I just can't ever remember. Because once we get it set up, we're not going to come in here again. If not, we'll just configure most of this manually the first time, because it's not going to be that big of a deal. And I'll explain to you why I'm doing what I'm doing. So, bring this back. Okay, so you have, so we're going to skip the hostname part, because this is going to be our base config for our router. But what we will do is the service timestamps debug date time, and this is my preference for showing logs, because when you're checking routing adjacencies and events, it is really nice to have it down to the millisecond, so you can easily tell which devices are sending what first or seeing and registering what events first. And this for the debugs and for the logs. So service timestamps log date. Oops. Log date time millisecond. Show time zone year as well. The year part probably isn't necessary, but it's habit. Service password encryption just because of habit. We'll go no IP domain lookup. And then we will also go IP domain name 12.com. We'll go ahead and do a VRF. So this is where we start doing some of the stuff that's going to help us later with managing these devices without allowing them to be impacted by base configurations from like INE or something like that. And for those of you wondering what INE means, it's Internetwork Expert. They are a vendor for training materials for popular certifications like the CCIE or VMware and things like that. So they have base configurations you can just paste into your devices to set them up for a training lab. And one of the things that kind of a lot of people have to figure out is either they're going to have to do a virtual console session to their devices, or if they have physical devices, they're going to have to keep a console connection to them for management, because the INE configurations have no IP-based management, so you're not actually going to manage them over SSH. But by doing it this way, you can manage it over SSH and not have it interfere with any of their routing, the default routing that's going to go on during those labs. And when I show you how we're going to import the configurations, you'll see how it will keep the method we're going to use is we're going to copy the configuration of the lab straight to the running config, and that'll do a merge. So that'll actually prevent it from erasing your management interface as well. If that stuff doesn't sound clear, I'll show it to you as we get to that part, and it'll make sense then. So we're going to do VRF definition management and address family IPv4. Then next to that, what else do we have going on here? So okay. So we do our usernames, Cisco, privilege, 15, secret, Cisco, CDP run. Let's see, skip this stuff because that's just default configurations. We'll actually go to interface gigabit 8. Then we'll do VR forwarding. Management. Now, ignore the fact that it's 9 on this. I pulled it from a device that had modified interfaces. It's supposed to be 8. So we can ignore this. And this is in case you're routing your management subnet. My VM subnet is 10.99.0.0/24. And that is different from my local subnet. My local subnet that I'm operating from is not in this /24. So it's actually going to have to be routed. So I'm actually going to have to tell these routers how to get to their default gateway, which is 10.99.0.1, so that they can actually get the management traffic back to me when I'm accessing it via SSH. So, oh yeah, and by the way, we'll go ahead and dump that in there too. So we'll do SSH version 2, and it will not be enabled because we need to create the RSA keys. We'll do that once we get the devices duplicated. We'll have them each generate their own key, and it'll be fine. So we want to go ahead and do a default route, but only have this default route in the management VRF. So we'll do IP route VRF management. Then use, because it's just going to be a default route. Boom, and that's that. So what that's going to do is only traffic in that VRF will be routed out that direction, which means if it's in the default forwarding table, which all traffic is by default, it'll never actually get routed to that gateway, so it'll be fine. Now we're going to do a basic SNMP setup, server, and we will do there should be a way to do, what am I thinking? Anyway, we're going to do community lab read only. Is there an SNMP version? I don't remember if we actually had to set the version. Well, if we do, it's going to be fine. We're going to be able to configure that stuff easily later. Because most likely the way I'm going to manage this stuff for bulk management, I'll just manage it via Ansible. So that's another thing I'm going to be using in this lab is developing and testing different Ansible playbooks, things like that. So it'll be fine for that. Now we're just going to do our console and VTY configurations. 0 synchronous, and then VTY 015, login local, logging synchronous, transport input SH. Oh, and exec timeout 00, because I hate having my stuff log out in my lab. And we'll also do that for line 0. And that'll be all. So we'll do write that because we want that to be in our base. Now, just to ensure that the things that need to be working are working, we'll go ahead and test this part. Int gig 8 the address 10.1. And also gig 1 that's it. It's gig 1.88. Encapsulation .1q 88. Address 10.88.0.1. So now what we're going to do is actually bring this up. So we should be able to sh Cisco at 10.0.101. Oh, connection refused because we forgot to do this. So crypto key generate RSA modulus 96. Host name R1. There we go. So the fact that it refused connection shows that that at least worked. Still waiting for that. Now what we're on our now we're on switch 1, which if we look at our topology is right here. It has an interface going out of gig 101 to our lab network, which all of these are going to be connecting to that singular interface through the lab vSwitch. So we're going to be testing connectivity on the default VLAN or the native VLAN, which is VLAN 1, and we'll be pinging an IP address on VLAN interface 1. And then we're going to actually have some traffic that gets trunked over for VLAN 88. So we'll be pinging interface VLAN 88 on this switch as well. And then we're also going to test connectivity over a management network. I'm going to go over my management PC through this switch. And make sure I can SSH into the router I've just configured. So let's make sure that's working. So first, let's SSH into this. Oh yeah, I used to have this set up on something else. So what did it say? Need to clear that out. SSH no host 16. So. Bounce out of there. Now we should be able to jump in. Yes. Cisco. So yeah, we're in the device. Sweet. So that's step 1. We have management connectivity from this PC or my computer. to router 1. Now we need to make sure router 1 can ping over this main interface or default VLAN 1 to the switch, and VLAN 88. So if we do show run interface gig 1 and gig 1.88, you'll see that gig 1 is just going to be untagged traffic 10.1.0.101. And we go over here, we do show run interface VLAN 1 and 88 and gig 101. All right, so we have a VLAN interface with the IP address of 10.1.0.1. So that means the untagged traffic should be able to reach this just fine, because the interface gigabit 101 is going to be trunking just default traffic, and it's in a switchport mode trunk, and all VLANs are going to be allowed by default. If we do a show interfaces trunk on this device, we will see that VLANs 1 and 88 are allowed over port gig 101. So that traffic should be forwarded as long as the hypervisor is configured correctly. And we actually have a sub interface on the router, encapsulation.1q88 for VLAN 88. And it has an IP address and a proper subnet. So let's go ahead and try it out. We'll do a ping 10.1.0.1. And let's see what it does. All right, first ping fails because of ARP, but after that it works. Let's try the other one. And it works too. So everything is working correctly as expected. So now we can just duplicate this base router, and we'll have our network of routers. So I'm going to get to doing that, and then we will jump to the next part of configuring the ESXi V.